Tonight, as we come on the air in the West, we have breaking news here. The dramatic images moments ago, Elon Musk's SpaceX and the test flight of its Starship rocket, losing contact and the rocket breaking up minutes into the test flight, and you'll see it. Also, President Trump's tariff whiplash now saying there will be a temporary pause after the Dow dropped another 400 points today, and the dangerous winds moving in tonight. The breaking images coming in now, that test flight of the Starship rocket, mission control losing contact minutes into the test flight. Then the rocket seen breaking into pieces, no one on board. But what happened here? Also tonight, on again, off again this evening, what President Trump is now saying about his 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. After wild swings in the stock market this week, dropping more than 400 points today alone, the plunge even after the president said he would do a temporary pause, but that the tariffs are coming. Also tonight, the dangerous winds. There are high wind alerts as we come on the air. Georgia up through New York and right into New England. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast. Tonight, for the first time, we hear from Pope Francis tonight. The Pope recording his first public message, played in St. Peter's Square. You will hear it, his voice tonight, and why people who had gathered in the square were so moved. Back in the U.S., the deadly crash of that medical jet in Philadelphia, in the air for only a minute. 7 people killed, including an 11-year-old girl. Whit Johnson tonight and what we've now learned about that plane. There is news breaking as we come on tonight in the Idaho college murders case. The text messages now newly released, the survivors desperately trying to reach the victims, and the 911 call from the home. Tonight, the stunning military accident, 2 fighter jets mistakenly bombing a village during a military training exercise. Back home tonight, Dolly Parton's heartfelt message this evening to family, friends, and so many fans across this country. What she's saying now about her late husband, Carl Dean, and about the outpouring of support.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight with several breaking stories. The dangerous winds moving into the east, Georgia right up through Washington, D.C., New York to Boston tonight, gusts up to 50 miles per hour. So Lee Goldberg is standing by. But we begin tonight with President Trump's tariff whiplash. In a major reversal in the trade war he ignited with Mexico and Canada, he now says he'll pause many of his tariffs for another month. Even with that news that he'll put it on hold, the Dow dropping again more than 400 points today. The president just 2 days after imposing those 25% tariffs on imports from America's closest neighbors, saying he will suspend most of those tariffs until April 2nd, of course, less than a month from now. There have been wild swings this week in the market, the Dow falling 427 points today, the 3rd day of losses this week. Tonight, the president insisting his reversal on tariffs has nothing to do with the markets. ABC's Rachel Scott leading us off at the White House.
Tonight, a stunning reversal by the White House after a roller coaster week on Wall Street. President Trump putting a pause on many of his 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico. Still, the Dow dropping more than 400 points. Investors anxious about the turmoil Trump's tariffs have created. The president, who has famously watched the markets, insisting they played no role in his decision.
No, nothing to do with the market. I'm not even looking at the market.
Trump saying he agreed to pause the tariffs as a, quote, accommodation and out of respect for Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum.
And I spoke to the president of Mexico, wonderful woman, today, and we helped them out with the problem they were having to do with the tariffs, short-term tariffs.
But he made it clear this was only going to be a short-term pause, just until April 2nd. Economists warn that tariffs are paid by American businesses, and they pass the cost along to consumers by raising prices. And Trump himself acknowledges prices could rise.
There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing. But the United States will be very happy. And, you know, our farmers are going to be very happy. And again, there'll be disruption.
The current pause will lift tariffs on many, but not all products coming in from Canada and Mexico. Still across the country, the stress is palpable. In Columbus, Ohio, Ada Wilson owns the Rio Fresh grocery store that relies on fruits and vegetables imported from Mexico.
When we have to provide fresh every day, prices change every day and it's going up. So we're trying to not to raise our prices, but it's affecting the business.
In Riverside, California, Matt Obrey sells lumber used to build homes. much of that wood imported from Canada. He says when the cost of lumber goes up, so does the price of a new house.
You could see $10,000 to $15,000 added on to the framing cost of a house easily, because there's so many different items that we do buy from Canada.
Trump making it clear today this is only a short-term pause. It comes after he granted a one-month pause to the big three American automakers, who complained the tariffs would devastate the industry.
And I said, look, I'm going to do it, but that's it. Don't come back to me after the April 2nd. I don't want to hear from you after April 2nd. We're not going to be doing it anymore.
And it comes despite his promise to voters that he would tackle inflation on day one and quickly bring down the cost of living.
We will end inflation and we will make America affordable again. Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again.
The White House is hoping that this move will calm some of the instability in the markets, but the president has made it clear he is moving forward with those tariffs next month. So the big question tonight, how much impact will this pause have when businesses are already bracing for impact anyway, David?
Rachel Scott leading us off tonight. Rachel, thank you. Next tonight, the dangerous winds as we're on the air tonight. 70 million Americans under high wind alerts from Georgia up through D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Boston tonight could see 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast. Stephanie Ramos with the storm right before these winds.
Tonight, millions in the Northeast on alert for high winds after a wild night of storms that flooded streets and snapped trees.
Gusts already today topping up to 45 miles per hour, and the gusty winds, they're not over yet.
In Philadelphia, heavy rain flooding the Schuylkill Expressway, swamping commuters before the sun came up. High winds sending trees onto cars. In New Jersey, drivers on Route 3 in Passaic County navigating a high water evening commute. Trees crashing into homes in Hillside, New Jersey. Power lines sizzling on the pavement. After that tree landed on her home, this doorbell camera showing a stunned Sabrina Chase dashing outside with her son as neighbors came to check on them.
It felt like an earthquake or something, like it shook the whole house, and I didn't know what I thought the roof was going to cave in on us, so I just picked them up and ran as fast as I could out the house.
And now a new storm in the west, threatening to dump feet of snow. Officials in Utah's Cottonwood Canyons shutting roads so they can prepare hillsides and prevent avalanches.
And David, wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour are expected tonight, prompting officials to ban empty tractor trailers on New York City bridges until tomorrow. And frigid cold air is on the way. David.
Incredible. Telling the rigs to stay off the bridges tonight. Stephanie, thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg from our New York station, WABC. Hey, Lee.
Hey, David, and those whipping winds complicating things over the waterlogged ground. We could topple more trees over the next 24 hours. We have wind alerts from Georgia all the way to the northeast into tomorrow, even a high wind warning over parts of Massachusetts. Wind gusts from New York back to Altoona already gusting 35 to 45 miles an hour. And as we go through the day tomorrow, the winds will peak here in New York midday, but we could have 50-mile-per-hour gusts in Boston, nearby Worcester, maybe 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Out west, it's heavy rain in Southern California, but heavy snow in the mountains. Up to 3 feet of snow as we go into the Rockies as the storm begins to spread eastward tomorrow. Ultimately, this will be moving into the Midwest. We could have a few inches of snow in Nebraska all the way into Iowa, even a dusting to a couple of inches in Chicago. The storm will weaken after that. David?
Lee Goldberg back with us here tonight. Lee, thank you. We're also following breaking news as we're on the air in the West tonight. This evening, Elon Musk's SpaceX suffering another major setback with the latest test flight of its Starship rocket just moments after liftoff. Mission Control losing contact about 9 minutes into the flight, the rocket appearing to break up on re-entry over the Atlantic. Here's Morgan Norwood with the breaking news tonight.
Tonight, that stunning video over the Atlantic Ocean, the SpaceX Starship breaking up upon re-entry after blasting off from the SpaceX Starbase in South Texas. Debris seen streaking across the sky over the waters off the coast of Florida, the wreckage splashing into the ocean. This video showing debris ablaze near the Bahamas. Major Florida airports from Orlando to Miami issuing ground stops due to the debris. The initial liftoff a success of the 8th test flight of the Starship mission with no one on board. The giant reusable booster that powered the Starship separating and returning, caught by those so-called chopsticks of Mechazilla. Just about 9 minutes into the flight, Mission Control announcing they lost contact with the Starship. Video showing it spinning out of control. It comes after the FAA required Starship to perform a mishap investigation into the mid-flight failure of the last Starship rocket back in January. Debris shooting across the sky above the Caribbean, crashing down back to Earth.
Space vehicle mishap. A debris response area has been activated.
The January incident also causing problems with air travel. Some pilots confused mid-air.
It's got a major streak going from at least 60 miles with all these different colors. Just curious, it looked like it was coming towards us.
The company saying they believe a fire started that spacecraft to break apart, asking anyone who found debris to report it to them. No injuries reported back in January.
And David, just moments ago, SpaceX issuing a statement on today's incident saying Starship experienced a rapid, unscheduled disassembly and that contact was lost. They say they'll review the data here to better understand what went wrong. But David, reliability in this situation is key. This is the same spacecraft that SpaceX hopes will take humans to the moon and beyond in the future. David?
Morgan Norwood on the breaking news tonight. Morgan, thank you. There is also news this evening after the horrific and deadly crash of that medical jet in Philadelphia. In the air for only a minute. What we've now learned about that plane, the cockpit voice recorder was not working and likely hadn't worked for years. Here's Whit Johnson.
Tonight, the NTSB releasing new details on that deadly medical jet crash in Philadelphia that killed 7 people. Investigators revealing there were no distress calls received from the flight crew. The aircraft plunging to the ground at a 22-degree angle, bursting into flames on impact.
What was that? It was a very steep angle at which that aircraft came down.
The badly damaged cockpit voice recorder found 8 feet below the impact site. The NTSB saying the black box did not record the accident flight, and it had likely not been recording audio for several years. The agency saying the medevac Learjet was in the air for about a minute before the crash. At least 24 people injured, nearby homes catching fire. All 6 people on board that jet killed, including a mother and her 11-year-old daughter who had just received care at a nearby hospital. Another person killed in a car on the ground.
And David, the NTSB says the plane also had a ground proximity warning system, which is now being examined to determine if any additional data can be recovered. David?
Whit Johnson with us tonight. Whit, thank you. Now to the Idaho college murders case. There's breaking news in this case tonight. Newly released text messages and the 911 call from the home. Here's Kayna Whitworth.
Tonight, bombshell evidence in the case against Bryan Kohberger. For the first time, we're seeing transcripts of the chilling text between the 2 surviving roommates on the night their 4 friends were stabbed to death near the University of Idaho. In a newly unsealed motion, prosecutors asking a judge to admit text messages between those roommates as evidence. After one allegedly saw the suspect in a mask, she tries unsuccessfully to reach the victims, then texts her other roommate in the basement. "I'm freaking out right now." No, it's like a ski mask almost. The second survivor texting back, "Run, down here." It's unclear what happened next, but about 6 hours later, one of the survivors tries but can't reach the victim's phone by text. Texting Kaylee Gonzalez, "Please answer." Texting Madison Mogan, "Are you up?" Just before noon, more than 7 hours after the murders, that 911 call is placed by one of the roommates, saying, one of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Telling the dispatcher, "Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night." And David, Bryan Kohberger's lawyers, who say he is innocent, claim these exchanges are hearsay. Now, both of these surviving roommates are expected to be critical witnesses at the trial in August. David.
Kayna Whitworth on this case again tonight for us. Kayna, thank you. Tonight we are hearing from Pope Francis for the first time since he was rushed to the hospital 3 weeks ago. Tonight here you will hear his voice, and it moves so many who were gathered right there in St. Peter's Square. Terry Moran at the Vatican again tonight.
Tonight, Pope Francis speaking to the faithful in St. Peter's Square and to the world. This marks the first time his voice has been heard since he was hospitalized 3 weeks ago. "I thank you from the bottom of my heart," the 88-year-old Francis says in his native Spanish, his voice thin, barely louder than a whisper. "For your prayers for my health from the square." The audio message surprising the crowd. "I accompany you from here," Francis continues, sounding short of breath, then giving his blessing, saying, "May God bless you and the Virgin protect you. Thank you." From those gathered here, as people do every night to pray for the Pope's recovery, a round of applause.
Today's medical report was encouraging. The Pope's doctors say that he remains stable, he continues his treatments, and given that, they see no reason for another medical update until Saturday. But Francis's condition and his prognosis remains guarded, and his doctors have given no indication at this point of when the Pope might be able to leave the hospital. David?
All right, Terry Moran at the Vatican again tonight for us, Terry, with Pope Francis and his voice. Meantime tonight, the stunning military accident. 2 South Korean fighter jets mistakenly bombing a village during a military training exercise. A massive explosion rocked a residential neighborhood just miles from the heavily armed North Korean border. The jets dropping 8 500-pound bombs. An official tonight saying a pilot likely entered the wrong coordinates. When we come back here tonight, an adult who died testing positive for measles here in this country. We'll have more. Also, Dolly Parton's heartfelt message tonight for so many of you at home following the death of her husband. And look at this, the dramatic images tonight. Police racing to save a 12-year-old boy who nearly drowned in a hotel pool. How they saved him here in just a moment. Tonight, health officials say an adult who died tested positive for measles in Lea County, New Mexico, the second deadly case of measles in the U.S. this year. The unvaccinated adult testing positive for measles but not seeking treatment. 10 cases reported in the county so far. First responders racing to save a 12-year-old boy who nearly drowned in a hotel pool in Warren, Michigan, outside Detroit. A police officer racing to the pool, immediately beginning CPR for 2 minutes, reviving the child. The boy has since been released from the hospital. When we come back here tonight, the heartfelt message from Dolly Parton tonight. You'll want to hear this. Dolly Parton thanking fans across the country tonight for the outpouring of support. Married to Carl Dean for 60 years, he died this week. Dolly says, just know it has meant the world to me. He is in God's arms now, and I'm okay with that. I will always love you. When we come back here tonight, the dog lost, found, lost again, found. Well, you have to see how this ends in a moment.
ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, sponsored by Chewy.
Finally tonight, the lost dog found over and over again. Tonight in New Orleans, a lost dog for months is now safe, thanks to an entire community coming together. Meet Scrim. They believe he's about 3 years old, a West Highland White Terrier mix, and a lot of energy. He was a rescue, and while with a foster family caring for him at their home, he ran away.
Oh my God, it's Scrim.
Immediately, the team at the nonprofit Zeus's Rescues began searching, asking the New Orleans community to help. Neighborhoods joining the search party. So many community detectives documenting Scrim on their phones, sharing them online, Scrim right in the distance there, even catching them on a home security camera walking through the snow, but always disappearing before they could get to him. And then 6 months later, Scrim was found in a parking lot. They took him right to the vet, and he was okay. 1 month later, back with another foster family, Scrim escaped again, tearing through this screen, jumping out. The home security camera catching the moment. And you guessed it, the New Orleans community helping to find him again, sharing a map online filled with his sightings.
That's absolutely Scrim.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And 3 months later, he was found. Tonight, Scrim is now safe and in his forever home, running right to the front door, but thankfully, not right through it. And right here tonight.
Hi, David. I'd like to introduce you to Scrim.
Michelle Cheremy, the founder and director of Zeus's Rescues, Scrim's forever home.
He has managed to capture the hearts of the entire city of New Orleans, and in the process, assembled this amazing recovery team of people from all different walks of life who work tirelessly day and night to keep him safe.
Now safe, and leading up to this year's Mardi Gras, a parade float made in Scrim's honor. This little dog, the talk of the town.
Have a great night, and thank you, New Orleans.
New Orleans is just too much fun. He wanted to be out in the town. We're just glad Scrim is home and safe. I'm David Muir. Here's a look at what's coming up tomorrow night on 2020. Good night.
Friday night, David Muir reporting.
We take you inside two cases. A mother just 19 years old.
She was trying to protect her daughter. She fought like hell.
Another case into a beloved teacher, her whole future ahead of her.
Mysterious cold cases.
It gives you chills even today.
Yes.
What links both of those cases is the cutting-edge forensic technology inside this lab.
It sounded like science fiction at the time.
Can they be solved?
You'll see it unfold right here as they unmask the killer in both cases.
Catching the Killers, 2020, Friday on ABC.